Howdy ho YouTubers, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Southwest Carp Hunter, and today I'm going to be giving you 5 of my winter tips to hopefully catch you some more fish during the winter months. I've been involved in the fishing industry for a number of years now, and I'm currently in the process of building my own fishery at present. So I thought I'd share with you 5 of my top tips to be able to enhance you guys to be able to hopefully put more fish on the bank from what I've learned over the last few years. So that leads me into tip number 1. My tip number 1 is learn to know about the animal that you're trying to catch. I've met so many people over the years that they go fishing and they automatically think they're going to catch fish in the winter as they were doing in the summer months, and it's a completely different ball game. Now carp are cold-blooded, which basically means they're kind of like, they have the same sort of blood as type as, say, like a reptile or something like that. So you think about a crocodile, or you think about a snake or a lizard or anything like that, they all need body heat to be able to, be able to move, heat up, and a carp is exactly the same as that. This means that whatever the water temperature is, that is the temperature of the fish. They're not like you and I, where we're able to move around. We can increase our body heat by moving around, doing a bit of exercise, heating ourselves up. Fish don't do that because they're cold-blooded. So they rely on their the temperature around them and the air temperature to enable them to create heat into their body, and that enables them to move around. Now the water temperature will also affect their things like their metabolism. So you might find that, like, during the summer months you were catching loads of fish from one spot, and then all of a sudden, as that water temperature starts to drop, you get less and less action, and that is because of the water temperature. So the less energy they need, the less food essentially they need. So you'll find that carp during the winter months will sit up in a particular area, maybe a bay of water, maybe a deeper part of the lake, can be a shallower part of the lake. It all depends on where is comfortable for them. They're only going to ever sit where it's comfortable. So that half a degree can make hell of a difference. So things like underwater snags, overhanging trees, those areas will be warmer because they're more sheltered and they manage to hold the heat of the water a little bit better. So those kind of areas are kind of areas where you're going to find fish. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to feed in those areas, because they may be mobile enough to, still patrol and have an area where they do feed. The biggest change usually happens in sort of like the January and the February. They tend to be more of the colder months. Winter officially doesn't start until the 21st of December, I think, every year. So it's the 21st of December all the way through to the late end of March. I think about the 27th of March or something like that. So that's the period that's officially called winter. The period before that is autumn, which again can be a bit hit and miss for people. Some people will say to you that it fishes really well for them, and some people will say it's absolutely awful. It's all water dependent, it's all water temperature dependent, and it's all environment dependent. So with the fish going into sort of like their dormant mode, you really need to give yourself realistic tasks of what you're going to be able to achieve during those months. Until that water temperature starts to increase again, you're going to find that you're going to get big long periods of absolutely nothing happening on a low stock lake. The same again with sort of like a deeper lake, things like reservoirs and your deeper pits and things like that. You've got so much of a water column there. If you're fishing in, say, 20-30 foot of water, you've got a big scale of water there, and those fish could be absolutely anywhere from top to bottom, wherever they feel most comfortable, just sitting. Personally, my best advice would be, if you want a bend in the rod, go and find a runs water, something along those lines, in those kind of months, and just have a bit of fun with it. Just set yourself realistic targets. A lot of people will be in the mind of carp don't feed during the winter. I can 100% guarantee you that they do feed in the winter. The feeding window is a lot shorter because they're not requiring as much energy as what they once needed, like they do in the summer months. They really will start to sort of come down. Anywhere 3 degrees and below is really where they, you know, they really stop moving in that time then. And their travel was really limited to certain areas. So that's basically my tip number 1. Do your diligence, research a little bit, find out about the species that you're trying to catch, find out how they operate, and you'll better understand your winter fishing. So tip number 2 is the use of bait. So as we just discussed, the carp's requirement for food is a lot less in the winter months because that water temperature is lower, and their metabolism has slowed right down. So my second tip would be easy on the bait. Personally, I've always found that you know, you need a bait to be soluble. The more soluble a bait is, the more attractive it is, and that's winter, summer, spring and autumn, all inclusive. So if you think about a bait being on the bottom, a bait being in the middle layers, you've got to get a bait to be soluble, to leak attraction, and that is the main thing that you're looking for, is to find something. It's all right chucking out a handful of boilies out there. The problem with the boilie is it doesn't start to work when you put it in the water straight away, because it's got to have water penetration. Now with a boilie, the water penetration will take time because it has that hard outer shell. It's not just the humble boilie that will work. You've got a million different baits out there. You've got all your pack baits, you've got your peas, you've got your sweet corns, you've got your wheats. Anything that will take on a bit of water and will leak into the water will serve you well during the winter months. It's all about application, and it's all about thinking about where you think those carp are going to feed. Where would you go if you were a carp in the winter months and you wanted to get a little bit of food? Is there an old weed bed somewhere where there might be a few bugs inside? Is there a shallow margin somewhere where they've got easy access to food? All of these kind of things is what you need to be thinking about. But the main thing is the bait application. You must not put too much bait into that water, because you will kill a swim before you've even started, because those carp will come in, they will peck away at it. The problem is, the more of it you've got out there, the less chance that you've got, because they will not hoover the whole lot up. I'm an avid user of the solid bag. I've used the solid bag forever these days. I don't use anything else unless I really need to on a water where I've got a lot of small fish. You know, again, all 4 corners of the seasons I use the solid bag. A lot of people use it in the winter months and then change over to whatever they were doing before, but I prefer to use a solid bag all year round. I think it's a fantastic rig to use, and once you get used to tying them up, they're no problem at all. So that's what I use all the time, and they're a really good one for the winter, because you can, you know, use a single hook bait and you can have a little pile of attraction around, and that is perfect for the winter months. So basically, think about the conditions, think about your environment, and yeah, think about how much bait you're going to be putting into the water. My third tip for this video is to take everything that you need to stay comfortable on the bank. Now this is a topic that I'm guilty of. I certainly was in my early days of when I started fishing. Just never used to take enough stuff with me during the winter. So come the evenings, you know, you'd be cold, you'd be wet, you'd be damp. Again, it's a total different ball game in the winter months compared to the summer months. You'll suffer from a lot of condensation. You'll suffer from a lot of, you know, water, mud, everything. So the best thing to do is take more than what you need sometimes, but make sure that the basics that you need to be taking with you are a decent sleeping bag, definitely a spare pair of socks. The amount of times that I've been and my feet have been freezing because my socks are wet is ridiculous. So take spare clothes with you. You never know what's going to happen when you're out on the bank. You know, I've been caught before with, you know, my waterproofs off in the bivvy, and then all of a sudden I've had a run, I've gone running out there, I've not even thought about it, and before you know it, you're absolutely drenched. So take enough to keep you warm. A bivvy heater if you need one. I use one during the really cold months between sort of, you know, your January and your February sort of time. So it's definitely worth the investment of getting one of those. Only thing I will say about that is be careful how you use it, be sensible with it, don't go to sleep with it on, leave the vent at the top of your bivvy open. It will still keep you warm, I guarantee you. Tip number 4, be vigilant. Seeing something in the winter months can be the difference between catching and not catching. So as we explained earlier on, carp's movement is a lot less in the colder months due to the temperature. So if you see a carp in a Pacific area or it shows, chuck a bag at it. If you can't chuck a bag at it, move. It can be the difference between catching and not catching. The amount of times that when I first started out, I'd see a fish show somewhere, and you know, I'd think about moving, I wouldn't move, I wouldn't chuck a bag at it because I wasn't close enough or for whatever reason, and I'd sit there all weekend and blank. So winter months, try and stay a little bit mobile, try and stay a little bit proactive, and you should reap some sort of rewards just by seeing fish in the winter. Another good tip is sunny days. Sunny days in the winter. If you think about a shallow area of a lake, that water is going to heat up quicker than what it would in a sort of like deeper area. So it doesn't make a lot of difference. You're not going to see big changes in temperature during the winter months. But when that sun comes up, the carp will follow that sun. You may well find that they end up in those shallower areas trying to soak up as much of that sun as they can, trying to get as much sunlight as they can. It will make a difference to the water temperature, maybe by a degree, but that degree may be the difference between you catching and you not catching. And finally, my unique 5th tip. Don't be suckered into everything you read in the fishing media. Now, I just want to put this out there. I'm not anti-company, and I'm not, you know, I don't have any problems with anyone out there trying to make a living whatsoever. However, there are a lot of companies in fishing these days, and there is a lot of crap floating around about what to do during these times, what baits to use, what rigs to use. If you're going to take anything away from my 5 top tips, take this one away from you. Fishing has never changed since it started. The only thing that has changed is the way that it's marketed with media and propaganda. That's it. All the stuff that you were using in the 80s will still work. If you were using Vitalin, if you were using sweet corn, if you're using hemp, you were using maize. I own my own fishery. All we ever feed in the winter months is wheat pellet, and they absolutely love it. So there you go. There are my 5 top tips. Hopefully you've all been able to learn something or take something away with you to think about. And yeah, I'll post another video soon. This is the only one I've had time to do for the last month. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you like, subscribe, and any comments, feel free to post them. See you soon.